thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Excited even.
No, I'm really excited. This is a super important topic, meditation and sleep. We both, we know that people aren't meditating enough, we're not getting enough sleep, and how we can help people perhaps ease into meditation a little bit better so that they can get the better sleep, they can get, be more productive during their waking hours, have better thought patterns and the like. But before we get to the core of the conversation, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and what brought you to not only, be a proponent and help people meditate better, but also create products like Muse that really helps them on their way. So tell me a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I went to school to train as a neuroscientist and then did postgraduate training as a psychotherapist. And I was trying to encourage my clients and patients to use meditation, but I myself was a terrible meditator. I would be sitting there trying to meditate, like, please God, let me meditate this time. And my brain would be bouncing all over the place, and I'd get really frustrated and not want to stick with the process. So I was working in a research lab with Professor Steve Mann. He's actually one of the inventors of the wearable computer. And he had an early device that we began to use to allow people to interact with things directly with their mind. So it was an EEG electrode. And as you shifted your brain state from focus to relaxation, we could then allow you to hear and see the changes in your brain. So as you focused, the music might get quieter or the lights get lower. And we were able to take this basic paradigm called neurofeedback, feedback on the brain. We were able to take this basic paradigm and apply it to something that we knew would help many, many, many people, which was to help them meditate.
So amazing.
Yeah, it was sort of one of those aha moments in the lab when you're like, okay, this technology is so fascinating, and we're using it with people, and we're showing them when they're focused, we're showing them when they're relaxed. How can we possibly apply this in the real world? Aha, to actually help people meditate. Because when you meditate, you sit there and, like me, your brain bounces all over the place. You're not sure what you're supposed to do. And we realized we had a tool that could actually show you, really give you feedback and say, hey, this is what you do in meditation. Yeah, you're meditating. You're actually doing it. Stay there. Do that more. And in doing so, get more people to meditate.
Right. I mean, so I think a lot of people are really confused about meditation, right? I think we all know that we're supposed to be doing it. But like you say, people feel like they get frustrated because their mind's wandering. Their mind is always talking to them. And so then they forget it and they say they don't, they give up. What are some of the, we know we're supposed to be doing it, but what are some of the benefits of actually doing meditation? It's not actually just sitting there and going, right? There's a whole cascading effects that happen when you meditate regularly.
So let's walk back a second and talk about what meditation actually is, and then we can get to the benefits of doing it. Because I think there's a lot of confusion around, what am I even doing when I sit here? How could this lead to those benefits? So I'm going to talk you through the most basic form of meditation, which is focused attention meditation. In focused attention meditation, which is what most people learn the first time, you focus your attention on your breath, or it could be a candle or a mantra. Just focus your attention on one thing that's neutral. Eventually your mind is going to wander away from your breath and onto a thought. And then at that point you have the choice to follow that thought, in which case you've stopped meditating. Or you have the choice to notice, hey, that's a thought. I don't need to think that right now. I can let that thought go and just bring my attention back to my breath. And it's this incredibly simple process of focusing on one thing, thoughts arising, not paying attention to thought, bringing your attention back to your breath. And when you do this very, very simple action, from there, a host of benefits happen. The first thing that happens is that you realize that you can actually change the relationship to your thinking. So most of us just go through the world with thoughts whirling around in our head, and we just think the thoughts that are in our brain because we think we're supposed to, because they're there. What else would you do? But in meditation, you learn that you can have a thought and you can actually have a choice about whether you think that thought or you let that thought go and put your mind somewhere else. And once you start to do this, you begin to recognize that all of those stressful, annoying, frustrated thoughts that just repeat often over and over and over in your brain for no real reason, you can have a choice about whether you engage with them or you just say, yeah, that's a thought. I don't need to go there right now, and bring your attention elsewhere. So this allows you to significantly reduce your stress because you no longer need to engage in those stressful thoughts. It also allows you to improve your attention. You're really training the muscle of your mind by moving it off of a thought and onto something else. And then you get all the sort of transformational effects of meditation where eventually you realize, hey, there are thoughts in my head and they're telling me that I don't look good and I'm too fat and whatever. Maybe those thoughts aren't even true. Maybe those thoughts are just something I picked up along the way and I don't need to repeat over and over again. So all of this then rolls into an amazing host of benefits in your mind and body and relationships. You're able to, pay attention to somebody when they're talking to you, be in the moment with your kid rather than in your wandering thoughts thinking about the past or the future. You're able to reduce the stress in your body by being able to notice those stressful thoughts or stressful sensations in the body and do some meditation, breathe deeply, let the thoughts go. That decreases your cortisol levels. That leads to a host of physiological improvements. It also lets you do things like improve your cognitive function. When you're really focusing on one thing and really honing and working the muscle of your attention, that can lead to improvements in cognition, improvements in memory, improvements in test scores, and on and on and on. So the benefits of meditation from this very simple but kind of frustrating act end up flowing into multiple areas of your life.
Wow. I mean, it is so, so powerful. I would say, so how long do you feel like you need to meditate in order to start being effective and having these benefits, these real benefits? How long and how often? Is there some sort of formula to that, or is it just, I'm sure it's also very different for each person.
It's different for each person. The best formula is to start off small. So when you begin your meditation practice, you can start with just 5 minutes of meditation a day. You can start with 3 minutes of meditation a day. Actually, in a study that we did with Muse, it was actually the Mayo Clinic that did the study with breast cancer patients awaiting surgery. They asked the women to meditate with Muse for just 3 minutes a day, and over 4 weeks or 6 weeks, they saw improvements in their stress, in their fatigue, in their quality of life during the cancer care process. And of course, the secret was when you ask somebody to do something for 3 minutes, if they're enjoying it, then they start to do it for 4, 5, 7, and expand it to longer. In other studies that we've done with Muse, where people meditate for 10 minutes a day for 6 weeks each day, we've seen improvements in physiological function, in stress, in sleep, and more. So the key with meditation is you want to build it into a habit. Because meditation is amazing, but you actually have to do it regularly, just like you go to the gym regularly or you eat well regularly, in order to build up the practice and the benefits and then take those benefits into your life. So when you're starting a meditation practice, you really want to think about when is the day is an easy time when I can do it regularly. For some people, that's the morning. For some people, that's on a lunch break. For others, it's in the evening before you fall asleep. Just choose a time, set an alarm on your clock, and when that alarm comes up, just meditate. Even if you do it for 2 minutes, just do it at the same time every day and start to expand the window. And when you get to 10 or 15 minutes, if you're comfortable there, stop. If you don't like going to 10 minutes a day, meditating every day will give you potentially dramatic changes in your life.
So there's different kinds of meditation, right? It's not sitting lotus style, on a pillow that necessarily means that you're meditating. I mean, you can be lying down, you could be walking, correct? I mean, you can
Yes.
also be sitting. Is there
Yes.
is there kind of a better form, or that you have found to be more effective, or it doesn't really matter?
So the focused attention meditation that I described, that basic concept can be approached in many different ways. So in a walking meditation, for example, you're focusing your attention on the sensation of the ground on your feet. You're just focusing your attention on one part of your body, and when your mind wanders, you return it to there. Or you may choose to focus your attention on the sounds of the birds as you walk, just the sounds. And when your mind wanders into a thought, you notice it and you return it to the sounds. So many forms of meditation can include the same notion, which is you're focusing your attention, you're noticing when your mind's wandering, and you return, but you can do it in different forms that work for you. So first of all, let's talk about posture. It doesn't matter how you sit, lie, etc. If it's uncomfortable for you to sit in lotus position, forget about it. Like, that's a way advanced move. Sit on a couch or a chair, wherever is comfortable for you. We like to give the instruction of, sit upright with good posture, because that keeps you alert and keeps you from falling asleep as you meditate. If you want to be lying down and you're using this for sleep, then by all means lie down. You can get your body into even deeper relaxation when you do so, and that's going to give you a different kind of benefit. So in the Muse app, for example, we have many different forms of meditation. We have mind meditation, which you're focusing your attention. There's heart meditation, where you're listening to the sound of your heart like the beating of a drum, and that actually tunes your interoception, your ability to actually pay attention to your body and its sensations. And when you do so, you can notice, hey, I'm feeling kind of stressed right now, and then bring in a practice to help you relieve that stress. We have breathing meditations, because breath is really a key to shifting your physiology. When you have extended exhales, for example, you end up relaxing your body faster because you're spending more time in a slowing, extended breath, which slows down your heart rate more effectively. There are also guided meditations with content for what you might need in the moment, like, I want to wake up with morning joy, or I'm feeling frustrated by this work problem. There are meditations to cover each of those kinds of issues so that you can use the principles of meditation that you're learning and apply them in a host of different situations that really come up in your own life.
That is so amazing. Actually, so this is the Muse. You have two different versions of this, though, right? This is the Muse S?
Yep, what you have in your hands there is the Muse S. We also have the Muse 2. I can grab one on my shelf right here.
Oh, okay.
Never far from a Muse.
So so tell me a little bit about this. This is amazing. So this is actually goes on like a headband. I've tried it for the last few months, and it's pretty incredible. I mean, I have to say, and it's almost fun in a way, right? It's like a challenge, which I think is also to see how calm you can get, especially in the beginning when it's a new thing and you're like, oh, I want to hear more birds, so I have to relax. I just have to calm down and whatever it may be. But tell me a little bit about the technology behind this,
Sure.
and what is it actually doing?
Sure. So whether you've got the Muse S or the Muse 2, what they have is EEG sensors on the forehead. So these are actually sensors that pick up your brainwave activity. So in the same way that you might wear a Fitbit on your wrist or an Oura ring on your finger, and they have sensors that detect your heart rate or temperature or pulse oximetry, Muse detects your brain activity. It can only detect changes in brain activity like focus, relaxation, sleep, so it's detecting state changes. So the Muse has EEG sensors. It also has a PPG sensor, so it can track your heart rate changes. That's measuring the blood flow, and it looks at the pulsing of your heart.
Wow.
And so these
Through your brain.
The PPG sensor works on your forehead, looking at the movement of the blood flow through your veins. It's similar technology that they have in a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, and so you can see and hear your heart rate. It has breath sensors as well, so it can track your breathing and then give you feedback to know if you are breathing on track with different guides that we have to teach you different breathing exercises to either energize you or relax you. And in the key function, the mind meditation, what it's doing is it's tracking your brain activity while you meditate and giving you feedback to know when you're focused and when your mind is wandering. And so the metaphor...
How do you know that while you're wearing it?
Exactly. So the metaphor we use is your mind is like the weather. So when your mind is wandering, you hear it as stormy. It's giving you audio feedback. And as you focus your attention on your breath, the audio quiets. So it really is like you're listening to the sound of your own mind. You're hearing when it's all over the place, and that becomes your cue to say, hey, let's come on, focus back to the breath. And then if you maintain your focus on your breath, you get little bird chirps and rewarding sounds. And as soon as your focus leaves your breath onto a thought, you get a cue, the sound picks up and indicates that you should come on back to your breath. And it becomes this very intuitive and easy way to understand, am I doing this right? Am I meditating? It's showing you when you're in the zone and reinforcing you to stay there. And then after the fact, you have charts, graphs, scores, things that show you moment by moment what your brain was doing to really help you further understand and deepen your practice.
That is so incredible. So what would you say is the main difference then between, let's say, the Muse S and then the Muse version that you have?
Yep, so what I have here is the Muse 2, what you've got in your hands is the Muse S. The Muse 2 gives you all the meditation functions. The Muse S gives you all the meditation functions as well as sleep. So what we were hearing from people who were using Muse was that they were using it in the evening, and when they did, anecdotally, they were falling asleep faster and sleeping better. So we realized that we could actually build a device that was going to help people sleep even more effectively. And so the Muse S is soft and comfortable, and you can wear it on your head as you're falling asleep and throughout the night. And the Muse S comes with what we call our digital sleeping pills. So these are audio experiences that give you real-time feedback that actually enhance your brain's ability to fall asleep. So
wow. How does it do that?
So you're listening to beautiful audio content that might be a meditation that's helping you fall asleep, or a bedtime story, or a soundtrack. And as you do, Muse is tracking your levels of wakefulness and actually changing the content, changing the volume of it in order for it to signal to your brain that it's allowed to fall asleep. And it's quite effective. In a recent study done by Dr. Adrian Owen's lab, they showed that using Muse for sleep improved sleep quality by 20%, which is really significant.
Wow.
And was helping people do things like fall asleep faster, stay asleep, and even fall back asleep when they'd woken up in the night.
Wow. So does it also measure your quality of sleep?
Yeah, so Muse's sensors are able to track sleep basically as effectively as a sleep lab, more or less. So instead of going into a sleep lab where you have all of these wires on your head in a weird scenario, Muse is sleep lab quality data in the comfort of your own bed. So it can show you your levels of sleep, your awakeness, your stage 1, your deep sleep, your REM sleep. And whereas other devices are kind of guessing, like if you have a device on your finger or on your wrist, it's sort of guessing on your sleep based on your heart or your movement. Muse actually gives you much more accurate data because it's measuring EEG, the gold standard of sleep. So we can do things like not only show you how much deep sleep you had, like you had deep sleep for an hour here, half an hour there, but also the depth of your deep sleep, because we can give you much more quantified information based on what's actually happening in the center of your body that's sleeping, your brain.
That's so incredible. I mean, think about how powerful that is, right? For people who, and we know millions of people are having issues with sleep, especially nowadays, and there's more and more daily stressors on the body. And so well, actually, I wanted to ask, so in terms of EEG, for those people who are not in science at all, I mean, how safe is it to be like wearing this and having, brain, like waves kind of going into your brain all night?
So there's nothing going into your brain. It's completely and totally safe. The same technology that's been used for, over 100 years in labs, in hospitals. It's very basic. What it's doing is it's picking up the electrical activity of your brain. It's basically like putting a penny to your forehead. The brain waves are conducted through that penny, and then a reader can detect the level of brainwave activity. There's nothing that's actually going back in. It's only reading, and then it translates that into sound, which you can hear through your headphones or through your smartphone, just in the same way that you'd be listening to music.
Right. And you pair it up with the app, right? The Muse app. And then you do recommend that you wear headphones, right? Just so that the audio experience is, I guess, that you're not distracted by the other noises in the room or in your home or whatever. Is that right?
Yeah, so if you're meditating, you can do it with or without headphones. Most people find headphones more effective because it really lets them drop right into themselves. When you're doing Muse, using it for sleep, for falling asleep, you can either use headphones that you can pull out after you've fallen asleep, as you're sort of falling asleep. Mine often fall out. Or if you don't have a bed partner, you can just play it on the speaker on your phone. Some people who do have bed partners, they actually both like listening to the audio and falling asleep together. So it really depends on who's with you and what everybody is comfortable doing through the night.
So who's kind of the prime person to be using Muse or meditating in general? I mean, it's hard to say everybody, but I guess is there kind of like, because I know everyone could benefit from it, but are there certain kinds of people that should really be seriously thinking about making sure that they get a meditation practice in, or a meditation habit in their lives?
Sure. So anybody who feels like they are under stress, that stress kind of lays siege to your body and can do both physiological damage and take up a lot of mental space. That stress is quite damaging mentally and physically. And so meditation really is the frontline intervention for stress. It is the thing that lets you learn to calm your body and really look at the thoughts that you have in your mind and assess which are useful and which are not, which are appropriate, which are not, and then also react more appropriately to the emotions around stress. Because another part of meditation is learning to manage your emotions and not get carried off on the emotional roller coaster. So if you have stress in your life, meditation really, really can help. Also, people who may be dealing with chronic physiological conditions, it has been shown that meditation can have a very positive effect. So in some cardiac care facilities, for example, they give you meditation alongside statins and other things that you'd otherwise be prescribed by a doctor. We have literally thousands of doctors that use Muse. The Mayo Clinic is currently running studies for fibromyalgia, so using Muse and meditation for fibromyalgia, Cushing's syndrome, another cancer study, and their doctors are even using it in the emergency room to manage their own burnout. So wow. There's numerous types of people who can benefit from meditation, and really the more you do it, the better your life feels. So it has dramatically changed my own life, and I wouldn't have classified myself as somebody who was unhealthy or stressful or stressed, but it's so significantly improved my relationship with my kids, with my husband, with myself. It's made doing my work easier because I'm not sort of fighting with the internal garbage that gets in the way when you try to sit down to, write a document. All of the things that feel like resistance in my life have really shifted and eased and opened up because the meditation practice has allowed me to see them from a new perspective and to not hold on to the things that I typically resist or I create stories or drama around.
Right. And I think many, if not all people can relate to that, right? I think and those thoughts are damaging. They manifest themselves physically eventually, right? If you think negative thoughts too much or you're just so hard on yourself or whatever it may be. And so I think this is just so great for beginners also, right?
So on that note of the negative thoughts manifesting themselves, so this is not like a spiritual woo-woo notion. This has actually been demonstrated. Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, who is a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, she did a study looking at mothers who were very stressed, caring for sick children, and she gave half of the mothers a meditation practice and half of them were the control group. And those who had a meditation practice that they stuck to actually not only decreased their stress, but also increased their cellular functioning. So she described it as an improvement in the cellular milieu, the chemicals that were floating around in your body. And she was able to demonstrate that by simply taking on this meditation practice and as a result, changing their thoughts from very negative and feeling like they were at the mercy of the terrible things in the world in their life, to, through the meditation practice, changing them to more positive and a sense of being in control, they actually were able to mitigate their cellular aging. So your audience probably has heard of telomeres on an aging podcast. I'm sure you talk about that. And so she was able to demonstrate that simply a meditation practice was able to improve the length of your telomeres if you would stick to it.
That's insane. Wow. That is really, really amazing. Is there a better time of day to meditate? Does it matter if you're doing it morning, noon, or night, or if you do it more frequently, if you're doing it, twice a day, or
So the big secret is the best time of the day to meditate is the time when you're actually going to do it. There's no magic to getting up at 5 a.m. and meditating. If you're not a morning person, don't do that. You'll just be grumpy and miserable. Just choose the time of day that you can fit it into your schedule naturally and build a habit or a routine. In the same way that you would brush your teeth every morning, have lunch more or less at noon or whatever time it is for you, come home at X time, build it into your schedule as a thing you do daily. Don't worry about when, just worry about don't worry about when, just be open to the opportunity of doing it every day. And if you can find a time that feels consistent, that will make it easier to build the habit.
Right. And I think, as you say, building the habit is key. So as we kind of wrap this up, are there any kind of final thoughts, final advice that you have, people who are just really kind of scared to take that first step?
So don't be scared. Meditation's very easy. On one hand, all you have to do is sit there. You can do it now with me. Sit there. If you're not driving or operating heavy machinery, take a moment, close your eyes, put your attention on your breath. You might feel your chest rise or fall. You might feel the sensation of the air coming in and out of your nose. Just put your attention on your breath. At some point, invariably, your mind is going to wander to a thought. Like, am I doing this right? Is the groceries done? Is somebody calling me? And when your mind does that, just notice that a thought happened. Don't get upset about it. And just bring your attention back to your breath, to feeling its rise and fall. And then another thought will arise. You can let that thought go. Come on back to your breath. And if you've done that, you have meditated. And so stick it in your calendar to do it once a day. Just start the practice. And if you need extra guidance or help, there's lots of wonderful tools and technologies out there to help you start or deepen your practice if you already have one.
That's wonderful. Oh my God. Ariel, thank you so much. So if people want to find out more about Muse and, are interested in finding more about the products, perhaps purchasing the products, where do they go?
Sure, you can find out more about Muse at choosemuse.com. CHOOSE, choose, Muse, MUSE, choosemuse.com.
Awesome. Well, Ariel, and if they want to follow you on any of the social handles, do you have one?
Absolutely. So Muse on all the socials is at choosemuse, and me on Instagram is Ariel's Musings, and on Twitter, ariel.garten.